Friends, what is exactly ego? Let's talk about that. It's important, especially because it's a block on front of us in our way to be ourselves. And we are not ego. So what is it? Briefly, if you look at what we use ego in our daily language, it is talking about self, paying attention to only ourself, how important we are, and we wish to everybody pay attention to. No, oh, it's me. I am an important person. I am such and such. I am by having this skill or this job or else. Thinking about self, focusing on ourselves. And when that is too much, we call that this person is having a big ego. But in more formal way, it comes from what Sigmund Freud used this word in his theory of uh, id, ego, and superego. And that's just a middleman between our very much low consciousness that we only go after our instincts like eating or reproducing or basic needs, and without even being conscious. And when we are conscious, but only solely for our own interest, and when we are more conscious and looking outward. So in this context of consciousness that I spoke in my previous views, ego is simply a delusion, an impairment that impairs our attention to our essence. In good analysis, in good analogy rather, it is like a jail. It will limit our view to certain things that affects our interest. And we do not pay attention to outward, out of this uh, area, scope of self-interest. And that is concerning because it will stop us from growing mentally, from becoming ourselves, reaching others, and finding the opportunities we have in this journey of life to gain with so much faculty of thinking that we have to be a creative individual. From that ego comes also the feeling of jealousy, competition, vicious competition, and looking at other people with prejudice, with bias. And nowadays, even in our new culture, new commercialized world, it shows it in a more harmful way. Ego in the form of disguised ego, that in appearance people talk about others and showing that they pay attention to others, they are having no ego, but actually they are hiding their egos. Or extended ego, as I believe Marcuse in his One-Dimensional Man talks about that very much details, that how we extend our ego, even our properties are egos. Even people who are in our game, in our team or related to us are part of our ego. And we just keep saying, oh, it's me and it's my family and my relations, my tribe, for example, and my estate, my property. And now most harmful one even is the organized ego that we have today. Look at what's happening in today's world. So depressing of what we see in Ukraine, in the Middle East. Thousands of people get killed. just day to day. And in deep look, it is only ego, but organized. Group of people in the name of a nation, a religion, a tribe, or else, saying this is us. And again, of course, at the same time, it's this disguised ego too. They justify this ego in a different way, but it's all ego. So see how harmful it could be, how much seriously this block could be. And now the good news, how much different it would be for us when we control this wild animal, this ego. By control, I mean we can't kill it. It's with us. And actually, in some point, it is good ego. Good ego is when you fight back the pressure on you to take your freedom, to intimidate you, to brainwash you, or to shut you up, to not let you to talk in different ways. And when you resist against that, this is the good ego. The bad ego is that, as I said, that delusion, as Albert Einstein called it, delusion, optical delusion, that we are separate, ignoring others and their interests, and deprive ourselves from what we can achieve. So when we get out of it, my friends, we will be entirely in a different world. In the first dimension of life, actually, I can call it dimension, the primary dimension, when we are in the grip of ego, we actually are in a world of forms. We know ourselves by our backgrounds, our job, occupation, gender, man or woman, or race or else. And on that limit, we keep trying to say, oh, it's me. But when we think, when we say, forget about myself and my body, my color of skin or my job, this is something as a form of it. Inside me is human. And at that moment, we actually go beyond the form or the skin or the surface and go beyond that. Beyond that is what the life is, the second dimension of life, the intellectual life. As soon as we get into it, it's a big gate we open, go in when we control the ego, and we see that others and us have so much to do with each other, so interrelated, that then we can see that how Einstein's word makes sense, that we are under delusion to erecting a wall between us and others. And that helps us to learn much more about the world and others, to the point that all the concepts we had in the first dimension in the grip of ego will be much different now, much more meaningful. For example, in the first dimension, we are in the grip of ego. We consider love as something exciting, right? But just limited to certain conditions and certain people, that they should have some reason for loving each other. In second dimension, we go beyond the surface. What is this excitement coming from love? How it could be just absolutely unconditional, and how noble that love would be. Concept of right and wrong, bad and good, also gets deeper. In other words, our concept of the first dimension of love appears to be childish when we go thinking more. You will find that you are the source of determining, saying what is good and bad. Because with your own analysis, deeper thinking, you understand that, as Immanuel Kant said, that honesty is a principle, and an absolute principle. Doesn't need to be learned by somebody, by some doctrine or some ideology or some religion or some culture. It's inside you. So you are the author of this. As Zakaria Razi, philosopher, Iranian philosopher, about over 1,100 years ago said this thing exactly the same. The concept of happiness changes. Happiness is not just a short success of in job or in education or else, which appears and then disappears soon. It comes from accomplishing something that first fulfill you, your high aspirations, and second, that has some impact more than your own selfish interest, but for others, especially when you do something that changes others, something that make others feeling how important they are, waking them up to their reality, to their values. And the concept of everything else actually changing, because one can't go one by one to mention that one. We are in the entire different world. A world that has meaning, a world that has a goal, is not repetition. Every day of it is something new, because we keep using our mind, exploring something, not keeping it limited to our day-to-day interests, that to see what is go wrong, what we gain or what we lose in daily basis. And most importantly, my friend, another thing, guess what? In the first dimension, we always are busy with exchange, but all material things, goods. And that's all excitement in it. Pots with pans, and sometimes we gain, sometimes we lose. In second dimension, we extend the exchange to intellectual dialogue. See, intellectual exchange. That's exactly the human life and human exchange. Because with that exchange, we get bigger. We go with much higher consciousness, simply because we see others, part of us, first of all, we will not be feeling bad if we don't know something and others help us to learn. To the opposite, we find that how much they help us and we help them, because obviously you have something that others don't know as well as you do. And that is the beauty of life. And guess what? If you have experienced this one in the past, you know what I'm saying. The joy, the real joy, the real pleasure, not coming from the senses, from the five senses, which a lot of times cheats us. Our eyes cheat us. It was telling that this Earth is actually not moving and sun is rotating around the Earth, and many other errors we get from the wrong messages of our senses. But by deeper thinking, we actually find the real truth, and that by this intellectual consciousness, intellectual dialogue. So finally, by all these different position of us in the higher consciousness and defeating the ego, you will have self-confidence. You will be the author of your mind. You are the determiner to finding what the value is, your own value. You are not playing the game that others prepared and you blindly join them. Rather, you question them, you correct them, you improve them. Actually, you make your own game in creating one and introduce to others. And finally, you find yourself valuable deep inside you, and you will have a stable life, a stable mind that nobody can shake you. Absolutely. And that is the one you see every morning in the mirror. Thank you for watching.